What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at Tesla. It is the 11th of April. Excuse me. The 11th of April, 10:07 p.m. on the East Coast. Had another wild day here for this Monday in the stock market, that is, as well as in the crypto markets. They got a pretty good smack to the downside. So we're going to take a look at a daily chart of Tesla, a couple things going on the charts, and potentially some scenarios that could play out here moving forward. Want to share something real quick before we jump into this video. Kind of fits the times we're in right now, at least the past week or so. The bottom right-hand side of my screen, let me get an arrow here. Bottom right-hand side of my screen, way down here somewhere, actually below this, you'll see I have a quote by Mr. Buffett himself. Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful. So basically what that means, referring to the stock market, is when you are in times like this up in here and nothing, Tesla, Elon Musk, you name it, can't do anything wrong. Could be a good time to take a little bit of profits off the table when the news is at its greatest. And on the opposite end of that spectrum there, when you're down in areas like this, the news is bad. The headlines are red. Potentially a good time to step up to the plate, be a little greedy when the crowd is fearful. Just wanted to share that with you guys by Mr. Warren Buffett himself. So we're going to take a zoom in here to more recent times for the daily chart in Tesla. Something interesting I kind of noticed today. I haven't really looked at Tesla over the weekend or had some different orders today, so it was on my radar. So looking at, it looks like we put in what could potentially be like an island top. If you have not heard of that, you'll get island bottoms and island tops. So basically what that means is there is a gap separating a period of time in trading, and that'll usually mark some kind of short-term top or bottom, this area being a top, at least for now. So you have a gap right over here, which I had mentioned in prior Tesla videos. You have a gap right here. And then we had a gap as well right here, leaving this area basically standing alone on its own up here. Kind of interesting. Don't really see them too often, at least in the stocks that I follow. So pretty interesting. Right now, that is definitely a top. Also have like another one right here, although I wouldn't really call it an island top because it's after that one that actually hit a higher price. But we do have this standalone 3 bars right in here. Just something to keep in mind. If you have not heard of that, go ahead and do some research. Check out island tops and island bottoms. So that is that. Also zooming in a bit, we have another price gap today. So we have a price gap right here. So Friday the 8th and today the 11th. Or the 10th, excuse me, the 11th. And then we also have another price gap up in here between the 5th of April and the 6th of April. So if you know anything about price gaps, they tend to go back and get filled. So basically a price gap is where price does not get traded. Usually it's the futures markets in the overnight session will move in one direction or the other in a big way, and when the 9:30 stock market opens on the East Coast, the stocks will catch up to where those futures are. So for this example, this would be the NASDAQ futures. The NASDAQ futures were down a lot this morning, and Tesla actually gapped down to the downside. So we headed lower here for Tesla. It's like Tesla was down $49.56 today, 4.8%. We actually closed out of some long Tesla today for a decent profit. Can't complain about that. This thing is looking quite ugly right now. We would rather wait for some strength to show up back in the market before holding this thing. Does not mean it's not going to go up from here, but that is how trailing stops work. So that is two things. One is that we potentially this island top up here, which is interesting. Don't see them too often. And then two, we have this gap here and this gap above today's market as well. So I had mentioned in probably the last Tesla video that we had this gap right here, and that video came out up in this area, I believe, or maybe a little day or two before that. And I said to keep your eye on this gap right here, because at some point it will get filled. Well, that did happen. That gap came back and got filled. It looks like probably on the 7th of April. And then we obviously headed basically sideways on Friday and then another gap down today. So that gap got filled, but what it did, it left a gap to the upside, and then today it left another gap to the upside. So for the bulls, that is some positive news, because if you expect those gaps to get filled, you will expect a higher price in Tesla, at least up to this 1,020-ish area. And then higher than that looks like 1,086 or so. That will fill that second gap. So we're probably getting a bit oversold here in the markets, especially in Tesla, but it does not mean the markets won't go down a little bit more before they bounce. And will they bounce back up to close that upper gap up in here? Well, we will have to see. So that is kind of a little bit of what's happening right now on the chart. We have those two overhead gaps. We have what looks like an island top. And I believe we're probably a little bit oversold right now. You can see the post-market trading session down another, looks like a couple bucks there, trading at 967.20, and it closed at 975. So definitely a little bit lower after market, but it looks like I was just looking at the futures markets, and they seem to be in the green a bit. Whether that holds or not, who knows? We'll have to. It's a long night, and anything is possible with these markets right now. They seem a bit unstable. So with what I follow, I obviously expected a pullback because this move. Now let's talk about Tesla. This move was quite powerful, but the pullbacks are starting to get a little bit deep, and markets are starting to go flat. Some markets are actually going short. That is a bit concerning. So we will have to see if these things can bounce here or if they're going to head lower. Who knows? Maybe 2022 will be a choppy sideways market, like I believe back in, was it 2018? Or possibly a little bit before that. One of those years, we basically had a washout. The market traded basically sideways for most of the year before breaking to the downside, and then it actually returned and had a massive rally to the upside. I believe that was 2018, or maybe a little bit earlier than that. So let's go ahead and zoom out a bit, and we'll take some fibs. We'll throw up a fib up in here to this high, and then we'll head down to this low right here. So what you can see, if we zoom back in here, is we are sitting at the 0.5 fib level right now for Tesla. So that is, if we find support here, that would be great, and it would make sense because we're sitting at a fib level. There is no guarantees that that will happen, but we are very close to that fib level. So some kind of a reaction to the upside here, some kind of a bounce, maybe to close that first gap right in here. I think the odds would probably favor that sooner rather than later, but it all depends what the men in charge, what the boys in charge, the boys on Wall Street have planned. So if they want to tank the market a bit more, there is nobody going to stop them. So, and below this fib level, you have the 0.382, which looks like that's right down around the 908, give or take a few dollars area for Tesla. And then if we get down even further than that, we have the 200-day, which is at 884. So the 200-day is right here on my chart. So like I said, we are back in a flat position for Tesla. Trailing stops were hit, profits were taken, and now we sit on the sidelines and wait for some strength to show back up in this thing, because there is some kind of a rush to the exits here for the markets. So the markets, as I've mentioned in prior videos, are forward looking, and the markets usually have a way and they smell what is coming around the bend, and perhaps there is something coming that the markets already see that is not yet out in the mainstream news, and that is why these markets are getting out of their long positions anyways. So, of course, not financial advice, just wanted to share some of the things I'm seeing across the board here. But we will see. Like I said, I think we are a bit oversold for Tesla. And if you correlate that with that 0.5 fib level, some kind of reaction here would not be a surprise. But does it hold or not? Today's candle does not look like the selling is over, at least going off today's candle. So we will have to see what the rest of the week brings. But I just wanted to give you guys an update on Tesla and kind of some areas to keep your eye out on, and maybe bring some clarity to some of you Tesla traders. So just for fun, and if the markets are going to continue higher, then these are some levels you can watch for to the upside. So if we zoom out a bit here, we have some much higher fib levels for Tesla. Now we have higher ones, but I won't get involved with those in this video. So you can see we have the 1.6 at a $1,500, the 2.6 at a $21, the 3.6 at a $26, and a 4.2 at a $3,000 Tesla. So if this pullback gets done and the markets do continue higher, you can expect to see Tesla get up to these 15, 21, and hey, maybe even up to the 26 or the $3,000 Tesla. Could take a couple years, but assuming the markets aren't heading much lower, then I think we'll see all-time highs for Tesla getting us above this. Looks like the high here was 1243.49, something like that. So that $1,200 range. We'll see. We're still in a sideways. This is basically just a giant basing structure. So perhaps we'll see a strong reaction getting us up to all-time highs after whipsawing people. And what I mean by whipsawing, if you are not familiar with that term, is the markets will chop around and they will whipsaw traders out. And just when traders don't expect it, the price will take off in the direction that they were originally in, but they got whipsawed or stopped out or whatever the case may be. One more thing to mention here is so far we are still at a higher low. So I had mentioned in that last Tesla video, this is still a higher low. So the trend has changed for Tesla and it's still in play. So we had this was obviously a lower low because it was lower than this low over here. But when the notifications were going off is when we had this move here. and we printed this higher low. So my radar was telling me that there's a potential for Tesla to be in a trend change here. And that obviously took place. We printed a higher high. We broke this high here. And it looks like that this was a massive leg to the upside. It was huge. And then this was our higher high way up there. And so far, like I had just mentioned, this, wherever this happens, it might be here, it might be a little lower. This is still a higher low. The uptrend is still in play for Tesla, but there is some cracks showing up here on the chart with these gaps to the downside, the island top, and the general markets getting a neutral to a little bit bearish stance here. So this low can come in anywhere in here. So the key is not to undercut this low. You don't want to undercut that low. That will cancel the uptrend. Now, they can do shakeouts, but I'm just going to stick with this right now. I'm not going to get into that. So we don't want to undercut that low. So anywhere in here, we could print a higher low. Let's say the market pulls down to the 200-day, that 884 range. That would still be a higher low. We have an uptrend in place. So we have this. So this is a lower high. So we're still in a downtrend. Higher low. So now the warning signs in my radar are going off saying we could be in a trend change. And we had a massive break to the upside, confirming a new uptrend in place. Higher high. And now we're waiting for where does that higher low come in play if it is going to continue to be an uptrend. And then we'll see that next swing up, giving us an all-time highs, giving us also a higher high. And the uptrend, which is higher lows and higher highs. I just wanted to share that with you guys. Maybe you can look at charts a little bit different if you were not familiar with that. So on the reverse end, you have downtrends do lower highs and lower lows. So you have a lower high right here. You have a lower low, lower high, big swing down here, lower low, lower high, big swing down, lower low. Still right here, lower high. And what happened though? Higher low to a massive leg up. The trend has changed. So let's see if the uptrend continues in place, or does it undercut this low and we head much lower. That would be, I do not expect that to happen, but it all depends what the boys in Wall Street have planned for the markets. And like I said, the markets must be getting a bad vibe of potential news to be coming here because, like I said, the markets are forward looking. So if we did head much lower, being in a flat to short position would make sense. Obviously looking back, but right now the markets are giving us some warning signs. So I would just be careful out there. And yeah, just trade smart. Don't trade too big. Of course, not financial advice, just kind of just the way I look at these markets, at least right now. All right, guys, take care. Check us out on Patreon. Consider subscribing to the channel. And remember, be fearful when others are greedy and greedy when others are fearful. All right, take care. And let me know down in the video comments your thoughts on Tesla. Take care.